All right, guys, it's Vera Sweeney, and we're talking about Kingdom on the Zombies Are Real podcast. And I'm really excited to do this. This is my very first episode. I've been thinking about doing this for quite some time. To be honest with you, I bought zombiesarereal.com. I got the Twitter account. I think I got the Instagram. I have the Facebook. On Twitter, I think I'm actually Hug a Zombie for about 3 or 4 years ago. It's something that I have a passion for, and horror movies, sci-fi movies, thrillers. These are the things that I consider my hobby. I literally watch a new horror movie every single day. I'm a work-at-home mom, and I spend an awful lot of time in front of the computer. And so when I say I clock in a new movie or a new series every single day, I'm not kidding. And so a lot of my friends don't share the same passion with me, and it's really hard for me to have such excitement over these things. And then I'm like, did you see Kingdom? And then everyone's like, do you mean that new Jennifer Lopez movie that came out? And I'm like, no, I'm not talking about J-Lo. I'm talking about Kingdom, that new South Korea movie the series that just came off on Netflix. It was amazing. And nobody I know is like talking to me about this stuff. So I have another podcast about women entrepreneurship, and just helping people sort of find their towards their dreams. I do that with a partner of mine, and I said to myself, this is my dream, this is my passion, and why not just sort of do this as a hobby and pursue this on my own. And I'm not trying to do anything about monetizing this, or I'm not trying to make a living off of this. This is really just sort of just trying to connect to people that like what I like. So first up, I want to talk about Kingdom. I binged watched Kingdom on Netflix. I think I did it in 2 days. And I'm not many episodes long. You can finish it in probably, I guess 2 days too, if you're like me, if you're a horror fanatic. You'll probably get that done in 2 or 3 days yourself. It's not a lot of episodes. Growing up, a series would be 23, 24 episodes. Now we're lucky if we get 10, but that's just the way of the world. People are sort of throwing out content as fast as they can sling it. And, it is upsetting when you really enjoy a series. I really actually liked what they did with this one, because the zombie apocalypse sort of met vampires in this story. The way that it went down is a king died, and when his followers found out that he had passed, out of fear for what would happen to the nation, because he sort of had a good grip on control the people that were under him, they gave him something called the resurrection plant. And when they did that, they just assumed that he would come back to life. Yes, there were rumors about some negative effects that could happen, but they were like, let's just risk this. He's dead anyway. But when they gave him the resurrection plant, what ended up happening was he came back as a zombie. But the twist with Kingdom is he only comes alive at night, which is very much sort of like The Dead Rises at night with the vampires. And so during the day, he looks dead. So anybody that is affected by this plant or affected by his bite, they're dead. They're dead during the day, but at night they rise and they kill and they infect. So few things I found very different and very special about this storyline, and why it really worked coming as an international film series, TV series, as opposed why it would not work coming from an American series. Two scenes. So there was one scene that I think was actually the scariest scene of the whole entire show, the saddest and scariest scene. There was a moment in the series where the enemy, the nemesis of the whole entire series, had to test whether or not the resurrection plant virus disease would transfer, whether or not somebody ate the flesh of the undead. So they put two men inside a jail cell, and they fed one man a meal which he thought was meat, like animal meat, and he was so excited. He, in the whole storyline, they talk over and over again about how meat is a commodity. No, these people are starving. That is the underlining story of this tale. Everybody is starving. This is a poverty-stricken land, which is so very sad. And you know, the meat is unheard of. To come across meat is just like, you know, and even if you see a deer, they speak amongst themselves saying, do you have permission to kill this deer from the government? So you can even get this undertone of they can't even help themselves. Even if they see animals, they are so fearful to kill the animal because of what sort of repercussion would happen if they were to be found to have killed that animal, which really truly is the scarier part of the whole story. And that is what's happening over there if you really think about it. Back to the jail cell. Man is eating what he thinks is animal meat, but really it's the undead. And the other man in the cell was not fed meat. And so he's saying, why am I not getting this meal? Why is he getting this meal and I'm not getting anything? And he's so angry, the man. But when the guy who's eating the meal continues, he starts to choke and die because obviously he has just contracted the virus. And within minutes, it's obvious to the people in charge that, yes, we have a problem because by eating the undead, the virus will spread. And the people who were watching, who did this test, said, we're in trouble because we know that the people who are starving will eat the dead. And when that happened, when that scene happened, I actually started to cry because that is not a thought that would be written in American literature, right? That's not a story that would get roped into a movie that is to sort of encapsulate what is going on in our country. No director would say, yeah, that makes sense. That's happening down south right now. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense for America. But for South Korea, they said that makes sense because this is happening in our nation. And they said two different scenes with that. That was the second scene when they referenced eating the dead. And in the beginning of the movie, they also referenced eating the dead because there was a impoverished town. And they said, well, we have to go to this secondary town. And somebody said, how can we go there? They're just as hungry as us. And the man said, well, how do you think those people are survivors? How do you think, as isolated as they are, they've been surviving this impoverished war zone that we live in? When their neighbors die, they go and pick the flesh off of their neighbors' bones and they eat them. And the girl was crying. She said, I can't believe, she was a little bit more higher up in the chain of, I guess, status. And she goes, I can't believe you're saying this. How could you say this? And he goes, you just don't know how people who live in the outer skirts of major towns survive this. You don't know what it is to survive. And she was like, I can't believe you're saying this. And he goes, that's how we live. That's how people live. And hearing those words and you know, you're watching a zombie apocalypse, right? You're watching the zombie. But to me, that was the scariest moment of the film for me, was the TV show for me, was to really recognize that that was able to be put in the film and that was able to be acknowledged as something that could pass for truth. And I don't even believe that it was, they're writing that as some fictitious part of the zombie world. That's easy reference to reality. That's something that people can sit back and watch and say, yeah, that's happening up in the mountains, or that used to happen 100 years ago, or that has happened, or I have heard of that happening. That's what I'm trying to say, is maybe that's not happening in 2019. I'm not saying this is happening on a Tuesday, but what I'm trying to say is 25, 50 years ago, that's not so far-fetched for South Korea. in isolated, desolated areas, if you heard something like that, I don't think people would flinch as much as you and I seeing that in a movie based off of America. We would be like, what the hell are these people talking about? That does not happen in Chicago, right? Like, I'm not going to be like, that doesn't happen in Queens. These people are crazy. So that's the part to me, like when that came up in the movie, I was like, what? And I think for me, like when you watch international movies, as more so than when you watch the news, because the news is so contrived and filtered and scripted, and you know, you see what they want you to see. But when you watch a movie, or when you read a book, or when you hear a song, or when you travel, I mean, travel is number one, but when you see the culture of a country, then you can really get what it's really about, and you can really start to understand what is happening and what they've been through. At least from a historic perspective, I understood a pain. I could start crying. I'm sorry. I understood a pain that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that that was something that was going down, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you don't think that, like South Korea, like, I'm not like, oh, 50 years ago they used to freaking eat each other. Like, what? So to me, like, watching that, like, that really sort of hit me on the head. Like, I was sort of like hit on the head a little bit. I gotta move past this because I gotta get over that. So, okay. King is dead. King has the zombie bug. People in power are trying to gain control of the kingdom. Queen is in place because the captain of the guard put her so. So she's walking around pregnant with the soon-to-be second heir. There is a prince. There is a prince walking around that has claim to this throne. But they're keeping the king alive because they don't want the prince to take over. So the king of the guard and the queen are in cahoots. They're like, no, the king's fine. He just has the flu. Like, leave him alone. He's fine. And the prince is like, I just want to see my dad. Like, let me go in and see my father. And they're like, no, you can't go see your father. They start spreading rumors about the prince. And then all of a sudden, the prince, long story short, is enemy of the state, number one. So now everybody's out to kill the prince because the queen and her father know he has the right to rule this area, and they got to get rid of him because she's pregnant and they want that baby to be the ruler of the world. And quite frankly, the queen's father wants to be the ruler of the world. He's just using her as like a peg to be like, yeah, you're the queen, but in actuality, I'm the one that's taking control of everything. So the next great part of this story is, in order to keep the prince away from the king, as soon as they find out that the virus is contractable through eating, which is they did not anticipate that, they decide to completely barricade the whole entire region and not let any of the other cities come near the main hub of where they're living. So where the castle is, where the palace is rather, they've isolated themselves and said, okay, nobody could come here anymore. That's it. You guys are dead. Like, you're dead on us. Like, you cannot come in. We are closing up shop. Sorry. And guess who's outside of the gates? The prince. So now the prince, who really should be king, can't even get near the throne. He knows what's going on. He knows the king has the zombie virus. They actually have a potential to figure out what's going on. He's getting more and more of the story as he travels through village. They actually found the source of the resurrection plant through their travels. They're starting to put together the pieces, but they've hit this roadblock. There is nowhere to go. They have hit this roadblock quite literally. every single passageway is now blocked. And not only is it blocked, there's all these armies that are trying to block them from entering in. So this guy is like really stuck, like really, that's sort of like how it ended for him as the whole entire storyline. It's like, I don't know what he's going to do at this point. And he made a really good point at the last episode of the season. He said, this makes no sense either. We're all going to die from the zombie apocalypse, and they're going to die from starvation. They don't have enough food in there. They trade for food. So they're closing themselves up, and they're going to starve to death. They don't have farms and means. They don't have the means to handle all the people that are encapsulated inside this little circle that they've created. So he's like, we're all dead. This way, we're all dead. This doesn't work. So that was really interesting, because I thought, oh, the people in the circle, they're going to be the only ones to survive, but that's not the case. They're going to starve to death. Now, this is the last great moment of the kingdom that I have to talk about, because I was like, this is so excellent. I did not see it. Usually I see everything. Usually I watch stories, and within the first 5 seconds, I got it. Like, I'm like, he's the killer, she's the accomplice. Like, I got it all broken down. This, I was like, oh, totally caught me off, like, blindsided. Queen walking around with her big belly, pregnant as can be. Women in a side room, all pregnant. And I didn't get it. I really didn't get it. There was about 8 or 9 women kept to the side that were all 9 months pregnant, all widowed, and they were all being taken care of. They were all being fed meat. Meat is a really big story. Remember, I told you that. Meat's a big deal in this story. So they were all being fed meat. And they kept saying, who's taking care of us? Who's honoring us? I can't believe we're getting to eat meat. This is amazing. And when I saw that, I said, okay, the queen is hedging her bets and making sure that she has a boy. She has to have a boy. She has to have an heir. So I said to myself, if she has a girl, she's going to take one of their boys and have twins. Like, she'll just say that she had twins, and then one of these poor women are going to lose their babies, and she's going to have a boy. So the whole entire series, the queen's walking around and she's talking to her doctors, and she's going, will I have a boy? Am I going to have a boy? Are you sure I'm going to have a boy? And the doctor's going, yes, you will have a boy. I am certain you will have a boy. This is a boy. Yes, yes, yes. Boy, boy, boy. And I'm going, of course you're going to have a boy. You got 9 girls in the back. You're going to take one of their babies. You will have a boy. Are all these girls going to have a girl? There's no way. 1 out of 9, you will have a boy, right? Last episode, one of the girls finally delivers. And I'm like, and then the queen goes, oh, I feel like I'm going to give birth now. I think it's my time. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to deliver at the same time. This is it. Are they both going to have girls? This is what I'm thinking in my head. I hope one of them has a boy. I hope they both have boys, so she could keep the other one can keep the baby. So they're having the baby. The queen is getting undressed. And the last scene, the queen is not even pregnant. She has a pillow under her dress the whole entire time. It is a facade. She has been fooling me for 8 or 9 episodes. I almost fell off the couch. I couldn't believe it. She wasn't even pregnant. I do not get fooled like that. I'm not like that. I was like, what? Wasn't pregnant. Now, I'm just very confused, because there was a moment somewhere in episode 2 or 3 where she was walking and some blood was on her feet. And I thought when she was pregnant, she leaked blood, like she had a little bit of an issue with her pregnancy, unless she miscarried in that moment. I mean, that could have been it. Maybe she miscarried in that moment. Maybe she was pregnant and then she miscarried. I really am confused about that. If you guys have any input on her pregnancy, she had blood on her feet. She had to leave and get changed. but she was seeing her father. So I don't know if her father was killing somebody and some of the blood got on her feet through his actions. I took it that a little bit of her pregnancy, like she had a little mishap with her, she leaked blood a little bit is what I thought, honestly, but I guess not. I guess it was more from him feeding, and then the blood splattered on her and she left. So that caught me so off guard. So she is not pregnant. The woman had a baby, and I'm assuming it was a boy. We don't know though. They didn't say if it was a boy or not. And it ended with us finding out that she is actually not pregnant. And those women are now just basically her pregnancy, what? I don't know, her pregnancy slaves. And they will keep having babies until she finds the boy that she needs. If that first woman actually had the boy, what becomes of these other women? They don't obviously need them anymore. Why would they keep feeding them meat? What becomes of these women? Do they kill them? Do they just let them out into the world? There's just a lot of questions that they left us with at the tail end of that episode. So lots of great storylines. And if you are I can't remember that Netflix show that I used to watch. It's passing my brain right now. One of the characters is I've seen her before, and I actually quite enjoyed her. She has fighting skills. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name right now. She's a great fighter, but we haven't seen that yet in this show. She's playing this meek, timid, like nurse, and I keep waiting for her to grab a sword and kill zombies. Like I'm like, give it to them, and then she's like, oh, help me, I'm just picking weeds from the grass. And I'm like, no, you know how to fight, do it. So maybe season 2 she's gonna like somebody's gonna teach her how to fight, and all of a sudden she's gonna become part of the fighting party, which is what I would do with her, because she has the ability to fight, but she's not playing that. She's playing a very timid, helping female, like, oh, I don't know what to do, help me. Oh, I'm just hitting him as best as I can with my stick. She's not participating in the destruction of zombies. She's sort of just winging it every time. She's like, oh, I have a pan in my hand, I'm just gonna kill somebody. But in the other show that I saw her in, which is escaping me, I can't believe this, it's the one where the 7 people were connected with their minds. She was a great fighter, and she's capable of doing so much more. So they're holding her back just to have her fit in her current role. But hopefully within season 2, they'll change her role slightly and have her be taught to provide a little bit more assistance on the battlefield, because she can do it. So why not let her do it? So that's my story. Kingdom. Loved it. Like it. You can watch it with subtitles, which I did for the first 2 episodes, and then I swapped it out and I had them made it become English, and then you can just hear them speak English, and that works too. Sometimes I don't like that, because sometimes I don't like the people who they choose to speak English. They're like way too campy. But the people that they hired to do Kingdom, they sounded great. It was right on point. I enjoyed it. Like I watched Dark, the German thing from Dark, and I just hated every single English person that they hired to do all the voices. I hated it. But this one was great. So I really suggest you guys watch it. It just came out a couple of days ago. This is my first podcast for Zombies Are Real. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I'm putting a video up on YouTube as well, because why not? And that's it. Until next time. You can find me actually, you can find me at Vera Sweeney on Instagram if you want to chat. That's where I will be. Until next time.